Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're journeying back in time to ancient Ephesus, a bustling port city on the coast of what is now modern-day Turkey. Our destination, one of the most magnificent structures ever built by human hands. A marvel so grand it was named one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Temple of Artemis. Imagine a building 4 times the size of the Parthenon in Athens. A colossal structure made almost entirely of marble, gleaming under the Mediterranean sun. It wasn't just a temple. It was an economic powerhouse, a sanctuary, and the heart of a city. But today, if you visit the site, all that remains is a single, solitary column reconstructed from the fragments of its glorious past. So, what happened? How did this wonder of the world rise to such fame, and how did it ultimately fall? Stick around as we uncover the epic story of the Temple of Artemis. Our story begins long before the famous marble temple, around the 8th century BC. The site itself was considered sacred for centuries, dedicated to a mother goddess figure worshipped by the local Anatolian people. When Greek colonists arrived, they merged their own goddess of the hunt, Artemis, with this local deity, creating a unique Ephesian Artemis, a symbol of fertility and protection, often depicted with multiple bead-like objects on her chest, which scholars have debated represent everything from eggs to gourds, symbolizing her role as a giver of life. The first major temple, known as the Archaic Temple, was a monumental undertaking. Its construction began around 550 BC, financed by the incredibly wealthy King Croesus of Lydia, the same king from the phrase "as rich as Croesus." He spared no expense. He hired the most renowned architects of the day, Chersiphron and his son Metagenes, who designed a revolutionary structure. It featured over 127 towering Ionic columns, each about 60 feet high. To put that in perspective, that's like a 6-story building. Some of these columns were even intricately carved, with life-size figures at their base. It was a spectacle of wealth, power, and devotion. And it took an astonishing 120 years to complete. For 2 centuries, it stood as a beacon of Greek arts and architecture, drawing pilgrims, merchants, and travelers from across the known world. But its splendor would meet a tragic and infamous end. The date was July 21st, 356 BC. While the temple stood proudly, a man named Herod, driven by a twisted desire for fame, set fire to the magnificent wooden roof beams. The fire spread rapidly, engulfing the marble structure. The intense heat caused the marble to crack and shatter, and the grand temple was reduced to a smoldering ruin. The story goes that on that very same night, Alexander the Great was born, and the goddess Artemis was said to be too preoccupied with his birth to save her own temple. Herostratus achieved his goal of eternal fame, but in the worst way imaginable. The Ephesians were so disgusted by his act that they made it a capital offense to even speak his name. Ironically, by trying to erase him from history, they ensured his story would be told forever. The people of Ephesus, however, were resilient. They were devastated, but not defeated. They immediately began planning to rebuild, and they were determined to make the new temple even more magnificent than the last. Help soon arrived from an unexpected source. After his conquests, Alexander the Great himself visited Ephesus in 334 BC. He was so impressed by the city's ambition that he offered to pay for the entire reconstruction, with one condition: his name would have to be inscribed on the finished temple. The Ephesians, with masterful diplomacy, politely declined. They cleverly replied that it was not fitting for one god to build a temple for another. Flattered, Alexander simply let them continue with their own funding. And so, construction began on what we now call the Hellenistic Temple. It followed the same footprint as the original, but was placed on a higher base to make it even more imposing. The architect Skopos of Paros, one of the most famous sculptors of his era, was brought in to oversee the project. This new temple was larger, more ornate, and even more dazzling. It retained the forest of over 100 marble columns, and was filled with priceless works of art, paintings, and sculptures by the greatest artists of the Hellenistic world. It was this version of the temple that cemented its status as one of the 7 wonders. The writer Antipater of Sidon, who compiled the original list, described it by saying, "I have seen the walls of impregnable Babylon, but when I saw the house of Artemis that mounted to the clouds, those other marvels lost their brilliancy. And I said, Lo, apart from Olympus, the sun has never looked on aught so grand." For centuries, this second temple thrived. It wasn't just a place of worship. It was a major economic center. The temple acted as a bank, a marketplace, and a sanctuary where people sought refuge from persecution. It played a central role in the life of Ephesus, which became one of the most important cities in the Roman Empire. The Apostle Paul famously visited Ephesus, and his preaching against the worship of idols caused a riot among the city's silversmiths, whose livelihoods depended on selling silver shrines of Artemis to pilgrims. This event, recorded in the Acts of the Apostles, shows just how deeply intertwined the temple was with the city's identity and economy. So what led to its final demise? It wasn't a single, dramatic event like the first fire, but a slow decline. The temple's downfall was tied to the changing tides of religion and fortune. In 268 AD, a raiding party of Goths sailed down the coast and sacked Ephesus, damaging the temple severely. While some repairs were likely made, it never fully recovered its former glory. The bigger blow came with the rise of Christianity. As the new faith spread throughout the Roman Empire, the old pagan religions began to wane. In 391 AD, the Roman Emperor Theodosius I declared Christianity the state religion and ordered the closure of all pagan temples. The Temple of Artemis, once the heart of the city, was abandoned. Its precious artworks were looted or destroyed. Its perfectly cut marble blocks became a free quarry for new construction projects across the region. Columns and stones from the temple were repurposed for other buildings, including, it is believed, parts of the Hagia Sophia and other grand structures in Constantinople. Over the centuries, the river Castros, which had once made Ephesus a prosperous port, slowly silted up the harbor. The city's trade routes died, its population dwindled, and the marshy ground slowly swallowed what was left of the once great temple. By the time modern archaeologists began searching for it in the 19th century, the wonder of the world had completely vanished beneath layers of mud and silt. It took years of excavation, led by British archaeologist John Turtlewood, to finally rediscover the temple's foundations in 1869. What they found were pieces of a magnificent puzzle that told a story of ambition, destruction, and rebirth. Today, that lone column stands as a quiet, poignant memorial. It doesn't scream of its former glory, but it whispers a powerful story. It reminds us that even the grandest wonders built by human hands are subject to the relentless passage of time, the shifts of history, and the forces of nature. The Temple of Artemis may be gone, but its legend, a testament to human creativity and resilience, endures. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey to ancient Ephesus. What do you find most fascinating about the Temple of Artemis? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't want to miss our next adventure into history. Until next time, stay curious.